On today's Kirkwood and Dunn, we're talking about why Nick Saban has such a problem with Curt Cignetti and the Indiana Hoosiers. Finally, we look at some Big Ten storylines, things that we like about the season, doing a little bit of a preview as we are getting so close to the season. The high school world was looking to Indiana this weekend as Brownsburg and Lawrence North squared off with two Indiana recruits making a big splash on the national stage. Finally, we have to weigh in on the debate that is taking the college football world by storm, like it does every offseason. Should you go to fall weddings? Let's go.
Have to make because I sat here and listened to Mario Cristobal, who I love as a coach, being our offensive line coach, great enthusiasm. This guy is the best salesman in the history of ball. I mean, he's a great recruiter, but if he ever gets fired, he'll be the best used car salesman in South Florida. I guarantee, no doubt.
You got a couple dealerships
talk, he calls me up with this ACC bullshit.
What's he saying? Hey, let's remember ACC, good conference. He just did it right there. Is that the story he's telling you as well?
Yeah, he's always trying to convince me that the ACC is better than the SEC. The SEC has 9 teams in the top 25. That's all I know. It's a deep conference. It just is. Now, I know that the Big Ten is a really good conference and getting better when it comes to depth, but really good at the top with, Ohio State and Oregon. And so, but anyway, it is what it is. But he's never going to convince me. Never going to convince me.
Tim, Nick Saban is up to his old tricks once again. And if you're watching on video on YouTube or Spotify, that is from the Pat McAfee show. A little sped up, obviously, as you can hear them laugh like chipmunks. But Pat McAfee, when he says there's good teams in the Big Ten like Ohio State, Oregon, and then for some reason just stops it there, and you could see Pat go,
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What? Tim, what is the deal with Nick Saban and Curt Cignetti?
Well, I mean, part of it is also Nick Saban is getting his checks from SEC ESPN, so he's not going to give a ton of credit there, but obviously he doesn't think Indiana's good, and hasn't. He picked against them all the playoffs last year, picked against them in the championship game, clearly short-sighting them here. He's not alone. There's a whole faction of people, as we learned from the AP poll that came out last week, that are absolutely non-believers in the Indiana football program and where we're at right now.
But my biggest thing that contrasts this, and it sticks out to me, and Indiana Bison, shout out to him. He's the one that found this clip and had reposted this and mentioned and pointed out that he's mentioning too. And the consistency that he does that regularly, where he does not give Indiana and Curt Cignetti the credit, is he starts out this whole clip talking effusively about Mario Cristobal. And Mario Cristobal's on the
right.
SEC. And he's talking about how good of a salesman and a recruiter he is and all that type of stuff. Saban does this with Kirby Smart. Saban did this with Dan Lanning at times, talking about because Dan Lanning was a grad assistant or a sub assistant of the team. So it's not just because it's a coordinator or whatever. And this is what he constantly does. People will point to when Curt Cignetti was hired, Nick Saban released a quote. And of course, Indiana, put it out there, look, the greatest of all time is talking about our coach. And I think that that's probably standard protocol. It's probably his agency, his PR firm, the Jimmy Sexton group that's probably putting that out for them so that they can help other coaches. And maybe Curt Cignetti, you can be in on Saban's agency, that type of stuff. But then ever since that moment, he's done nothing to show that he has any affinity towards Curt Cignetti or any affinity towards Indiana. And I'm here to submit to you, Tim. I think the man is jealous. I think the man...
No, okay, come on. Jealous?
Yes.
Jealous? He is the greatest college football coach of all time, and not even close.
He is the greatest college football all time, who talks constantly about the reason why he got out was because the era of which this has become with NIL and transfer portal and stuff, that he was just tired of it and couldn't win. And then a guy that he refused to promote. He refused to put in a position. Like there's a story in The Athletic about Nick Saban comes into the coach's room and asks about a MAC school. I can't remember if I think it was Kent State, because I think that's what Nick Saban has ties to Kent State, obviously graduated from there.
Mhm.
But Kent State or Akron, and it's like, who wants this job? They've called me. And no one raises their hand. And Curt Cignetti raised their hand. And they put it in The Athletic, as I think another assistant told the story, as an example of like Curt Cignetti was like wanting to be a head coach and all this stuff. Guess who didn't get hired at that place? Curt Cignetti. Curt Cignetti had to go to Division II ball or whatever. You're telling me that if Nick Saban effusively talks about Curt Cignetti like he does Mario Cristobal or Kirby Smart to the Kent State AD at the time, Curt Cignetti doesn't get hired? Like this man looks at Curt Cignetti as less than his other assistants, and Curt Cignetti is winning at a clip better than Nick Saban in this era. He hasn't won more championships. He hasn't done it a long time. He hasn't been there a long time, but he's already performing better at Indiana than Nick Saban did coming from Miami to Alabama. It took him longer to build at Alabama than it has Curt Cignetti. The man is jealous of what Curt Cignetti's doing, and he takes every opportunity to take passive-aggressive omissions or statements like this. And quite frankly, it's quite annoying. I find it obnoxious. He's a grumpy old man who is just jealous of Curt Cignetti.
I am going to be a wet blanket and non-homer take here. I don't think this is really true. Like, there's maybe a little bit of something, because you are right to say like he is clearly, Nick Saban has taken a different approach with different former assistants that he clearly likes more than others, and that he is more effusive of, etc. But at the same time, Curt Cignetti was a wide receivers coach from 2007 to 2011. That was 15 years ago, right? And like Dan Lanning was like way more recent. Kirby Smart, way more recent. Like
Dan Lanning was there in 2015, 2014.
That's like, still 4 more years. Like it's still 10 years versus 15 years. I'm just saying that, like,
Dan Lanning was an assistant linebacker coach, and Curt Cignetti was his lead recruiting coordinator.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I don't think he's jealous. Jealous is like a bit much for me. That's a bit of a reach. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't like Curt Cignetti. If he was like, I didn't think he was all that great of a coach, and I could have recruited those guys too. He just happened to be the one, sending off the scanned faxes to the recruits back in 2007. I don't know, but he's jealous. I think he's a non-believer, but he's going to be forced to be a believer.
Am I not using the right emotion for you? Is he resentful? Is he like?
I don't even think he's resentful.
Is he tearing down? He's tearing down what is the greatest college football coach right now in college football. Nick Saban's still the greatest of all time. I'm not here to say that Curt Cignetti, because of his age, because of guys like Nick Saban, who refused to put him in a position to be a major football coach at a top program a lot faster than what Curt Cignetti had, the path he had to take. Curt Cignetti probably will never have a chance to pass Nick Saban in terms of championships and the amount of wins. But like, they're like,
man, you are really pining for the Curt Cignetti. Like, you are like, you might as well be his agent. I just don't think that there's like, he was there for 4 years. That 4 years at Alabama, Nick Saban both kept him on staff and had him doing things like he was the wide receivers coach and recording coordinator, but B, sabotaged his whole career timeline and trajectory. Those things don't compute.
This would be he's the last. Curt Cignetti had to go to IUP to get a head coaching job.
I think that's more about Curt Cignetti. He's the first
Alabama assistant. He's the first Alabama assistant I think I know of that like couldn't get a head coaching job. Like effing Pete Golding is coaching. Pete Golding is coaching.
That happened
because of his Alabama was the defensive coordinator.
That's Pete Golding. Yeah, but that's listen to me. I'm making the point. That happened after Curt Cignetti, where everybody started calling Alabama assistants. That happened after Curt Cignetti left.
Go look at those Alabama staffs. Yes. There are a ton of head coaches that came out of that Alabama staff.
But not like immediately right after.
It would be one thing. It would be one thing if Nick Saban was never talking about his assistants or never making any comments about it. Like, it would be one thing. Like, if he was just like always like doubtful of the guys that came up from. But go listen to what he says about Sark. Go listen to what he says about Lane Kiffin. Go listen to what he said about Pete Golding after he was kissing Lane Kiffin's ass for leaving for LSU. And then he talks about Pete Golding about how, man, he's a generational defensive mind and blah, blah, blah. Like, and then he constantly omits Curt Cignetti and anything and picks against him, as you have pointed out. It is inconsistent with it.
I don't think it's inconsistent. I think it's you're like, I agree with you in the sense that he probably doesn't like Curt Cignetti. I would agree with that sentiment.
So why does he not like Curt Cignetti? If it's not jealousy, if it's not resentment, we're having a topic. This is a podcast.
People don't get along
sometimes. We're 2 weeks away from Indiana football. I got to come up with topics.
Maybe he hates
why does he not like
takes on the baseball season. I don't know why he doesn't like him. Who cares why he doesn't like him? Sometimes people just don't like each other.
Who cares is because people talk about Nick Saban like he should be the commissioner of college football. He has a power dynamic in college football. And he continually, you got Alabama drones and Southeastern drones. They're like, oh, Nick Saban, he's the god. He's a blah, blah, blah. Oh, he doesn't like Curt Cignetti. Curt Cignetti must be a bad guy. Blah, 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 blah. Like, this is all it is. It's a talking head that's irresponsible with his power because of Curt Cignetti, in your opinion, has bad baseball takes, or Curt Cignetti won't update his fantasy roster to help you get into the fantasy playoffs.
That's what I'm saying. Things. Right. But this is my point. You started also by saying that somehow from the time that he got hired at Alabama in 2007 to the time that he left in 2011 to go be the IUP head coach, Nick Saban like sabotaged his career trajectory.
There's a story. I have evidence.
What story are you talking? Oh, because he asked like Curt Cignetti raises his hand for Kent State.
Stewie Mandel. Stewie Mandel talking about another assistant, and Nick Saban walks in the room and offers a head coaching job to his assistants, and no one was interested, and only Curt Cignetti was interested. And guess what? He didn't end up the coach. He didn't end up the coach.
And this is where I'm calling, like, I believe the story. Sure, okay, Nick Saban walk into a room. Guys, who wants to be Kent State? Curt, please me, Nick. And Nick's like, nah, fuck you, right? No, but also that doesn't jive a ton with the other pieces.
That's sabotage.
Listen to me. That's the other pieces of information and context around the situation, which is the following. That one, if Nick Saban didn't really like Curt Cignetti and thought he was bad, he would have fired his ass flat out, right? But he didn't. He was still there, still had a very important role. He was not demoted or anything else. So I'm cautious a little bit to be like, he's a saboteur. Because he just thought, Curt, I don't know if you're good enough for Kent State.
He didn't think he was good enough to get promoted.
Oh, yeah, the guy's trying to win too. Like, he can just be, I'm perfectly fine if Nick Saban's assessment of Curt Cignetti, the coach, in 2009 and 2010 was, I don't know if you could be the offensive coordinator for me at Alabama. I'm trying to win titles. I want to keep you as the wide receivers coach and recruiting coordinator. I think that's a perfectly fine fucking assessment and didn't ruin his career. If Curt Cignetti was good enough to get a MAC job at Kent State or something else, as you are purporting here, he also would not have then fallen off and gotten the IUP job in 2011. He could have gotten some other school, a Mountain West school, something else. I just think that the rest of the world was not really keen on Curt Cignetti, and that wasn't just Nick Saban. It was probably the entire coaching football universe. Were they wrong? 10,000% they were wrong. He's the best coach that we have in college football right now. He's a complete winner. Everybody was wrong. I'm just going to like stop at the Nick Saban is a saboteur and has ruined Curt Cignetti's financial and career success because of one time he said maybe he wouldn't be good enough for the Kent State job.
The man in 2011 had already won 2 national titles at 2 separate places, has been an NFL head coach, was considered one of the best coaches in college football, if not the best college football at the time. And you're telling me that if Nick Saban would advocate for his staff, which he did in multiple spots, like multiple places throughout the history of Nick Saban's coaching career,
but did that way after the Curt Cignetti
would get a job.
He did that after Curt Cignetti.
There were guys getting jobs from Alabama back in 2008. Go look at their coordinator list. These guys got jobs quickly.
Now I'm going to be
like it just
Alabama
is there.
Coaching staff. 2008. Let's take a look at these.
Great podcasting.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, these guys eventually became head coaches. When did Jim McElwain get the Florida job? It wasn't in 2009 after the 2008 season. Kirby Smart didn't get the Georgia. Kirby Smart.
2010. Jim McElwain
Begins 2
followed
years
Urban
after.
Meyer.
That's my point. But like, he's
What
not.
are you talking? That's not a good point. Like, he got the job. Those guys
But
got
he got
jobs.
it later. He got it later in time. You're upset about this some story of one time where Curt Cignetti or Nick Saban was just like, hey, don't know if I can give the most positive, glowing fucking reference. And your whole point is later on in the history of the world, Nick Saban is giving glowing references. And I'm
glad you actually pointed out. I'm glad you pointed out
that.
Jim McElwain. I'm glad you pointed out Jim McElwain. Jim McElwain's
When did Kirby
tenure,
Smart get the damn Georgia
Jim
job?
McElwain's tenure at Alabama ended in 2011. You know when it ended in 2011? Because he got the Colorado State job. You know who didn't get the offensive coordinator job? And you know who didn't get the offensive coordinator job and got an IUP job instead in 2011? Curt Cignetti.
And I don't think it's Nick Saban's fault.
Who probably got passed up as a coordinator and went and did it. Because you're telling me Curt Cignetti wouldn't have taken it would have been his first coordinator job. Like you telling me he got passed up. He went and took another job because he constantly got passed up. So like this is
and I don't think
you're
it's because
making my
Nick
whole
Saban
point by
one time
bringing
said,
up
hey,
Jim
Kent State,
McElwain.
I don't think Curt would be the best hire for you. I don't think that was it. I think it was just the cultural opinion of everybody at the time. They were all wrong.
Nick Saban, who you just point out the one guy that like got coaching job after that Nick Saban probably helped him get Colorado State. And then there's a vacancy on his staff, and Curt Cignetti in that year goes down to Division III or Division II football or whatever. Like you made my point without like pulling out Jim McElwain as the example.
But that's my point. If Curt Cignetti was held in even any kind of regard, he was still the lead Alabama recruiting coordinator and wide receivers coach. He would not have gone to Division II if he could have been the OC at fucking Colorado State, like you're talking about, or Washington State, or Syracuse. Like, my point is that it wasn't this that Nick Saban was some saboteur of like jabbing his guy, because if he also really didn't like him, he would have fired him. That's my point. He would have not have had the job. But like
I have no doubt that Curt Cignetti
has less to do with Nick Saban than it does just the general opinion. Do I think
that Nick Saban thinks Curt Cignetti can't coach football, or that Nick Saban, this is Frank Cignetti's son who gave Nick Saban his start, and so he like has some level of affinity towards the guy, and the guy obviously like merit over assholeness or merit over like oh, Curt Cignetti can't shake a hand and this is awkward, and so this guy's never going to be a head coach or an offense coordinator. Like, probably like Nick Saban liked that Curt Cignetti brought in Julio Jones. Nick Saban liked the recruiting coordinator. But Nick Saban had never had a belief that he could be a higher than his lot in life. His 25 years of being quarterback coach at Rice and North Carolina State and like all these schools. And that's it. And now Curt Cignetti becomes whatever he became. Probably Saban didn't like it because Cignetti was good at being a receiver coach and being a recruiting coordinator. He goes and does it, and then he is good. And it's like he's the one guy that Nick Saban didn't identify early, that didn't think that he was going to be good, still doesn't believe he can do what he's doing, obviously, because he doesn't give him the credit that he deserves. And we're sitting here, and all I'm bringing up is that resentment, jealousy, annoyance, dislike, whatever, is percolating constantly every time Nick Saban opens his mouth. Anything adjacent to Indiana and the Big Ten is that he takes passive aggressive comments. And I bet you people in the comments might go, Curt Cignetti doesn't care. Curt Cignetti cares. The man doesn't go roll tide at the White House because he's like, doesn't care that Nick Saban takes shots at him by omission or passive aggressive every time he opens his mouth.
I believe this, and I do halfway agree with you. I don't think it was the fact about like Curt Cignetti getting a head coach. I think it's more that he didn't promote him to offensive coordinator once he Jim McElwain left. That was like, or was still there. Technically, Curt Cignetti left before McElwain left, but like he realized, because the guy who comes in after McElwain to be offensive coordinator at Alabama is Doug Nussmeier, who is, an NFL coach right now.
For the Saints. Let's be.
Listen, I'm actively trying to get Tyler Shuck on my fantasy team, okay? Guys are going to be cooking in New Orleans. But this is my point. I'm just saying, was Nick Saban wrong in his like coaching evaluation of Curt Cignetti? Yes. But then that's where I'm stopping. I think you're going to this next level of like Nick Saban ruined his potential or something else. I'm like, I don't know that he ruined his potential.
Well, ruined his, but that's not what I'm saying. I held him back.
You said saboteur.
Yeah, I held him back.
But
yeah.
Okay, but
I think that's
I don't think that
because
he was wrong on him, or holding him back because he was like intentionally holding back. I think he was just wrong. I don't think that was holding him back. I think the phrase holding him back is like an intentional, I'm not going to let you do this. I think he was wrong about Curt Cignetti and thinking he could not become an offensive coordinator at a Power 4 school that had national title hopes in Alabama, or he was wrong that he couldn't be a head coach at a MAC school or a low level like G6 type school or something like that. He was wrong, but I don't believe he was intentionally like, fuck this guy. No, he's going to stay here. I pumped the brakes on that a little bit. That's where I'm drawing the line.
Let us know down in the comments what you think, whether you think that it's really out of jealousy, resentment, whatever, that he held him back, or it's because of Tim's point, which is kind of adjacent to that, but just doesn't use those types of emotions. So let us know down in the comments what you think. Tim, big news out of Indiana. Well, really on a federal level, but it's out of Indianapolis, where the NCAA continues to shoot themselves in their own feet constantly and looks at it and goes, you know what? We're going to pass a rule that allows players to do X, but we're going to implement this in the worst way possible. And then when the courts overthrow this, we're going to spend thousands to millions of dollars to fight something that is already going to happen in the next calendar year. The federal government's Colorado case that allowed Stephen Daley and Kellan Wyatt to start participating in practice and to be eligible got overturned, or got appealed, and basically it wasn't overturned. It just like they put a stay on it that basically it would hurt the NCAA's business model, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And so now they're ineligible. But there's a caveat. Everyone in different states like Louisiana, Kentucky, I know our states, Tennessee is a state. That's why Sam Alexis can play. That if they get ruled eligible, then they are eligible. Tim, your thoughts on what is another billable hour for the NCAA to lose again in court eventually?
We really missed the boat on going to law school. This was
right.
With this, talk about the golden era of law school students. You guys got it good. The interesting thing, I mean, and we are both, like Twitter lawyers here, but it's like, the Sam Alexis thing is a different type of lawsuit than what granted Stephen Daley and Kellan Wyatt eligibility. So they would have to file a different suit at a state level for a different reason, say why they should be eligible. Who knows? I'm sure those guys actually have lawyers looking that up right now and probably will be filing it by Monday to get those things in. But ultimately, the NCAA, like, I'm now tinfoil hat on the NCAA. That this is actually not even just stupidity. This is actually orchestrated chaos. And that's what, is floating around on the internet. Like, this was all meant to get the Protect College Sports Act through, where, public sentiment would have somehow been on their side. They misread that situation pretty badly. And everyone would have been like, God, I hate the courts. So thank you, Ted Cruz, for saving us in the Senate. Idiots. Not going to happen. And so now we're back at square one, where there's just nothing but lawsuits. Nobody knows who's going to be playing. It is right now, given the state as we're recording Sunday morning, without Stephen Daley and Kellan Wyatt, which stinks, because, man, that was really getting me quite giddy for the season. I'm still very excited about the Hoosiers. This doesn't come through for us and they don't win. But at the same time, too, it didn't seem like either of them was going to be like gangbusters here week one. might have even sat out more or less most of the non-conference. So, in some ways, I think they have like, for Indiana football purposes, if it takes a couple more weeks for them to win another lawsuit to get back in eligibility, I think it's kind of fine.
Yeah, I think it's important to know that they can still practice. They can be a part of it, and it doesn't seem that Indiana is going to move away from allowing them not to practice or anything. Like, it's not like
Right.
hey,
be in the facility,
you can't,
get training. Yeah.
So they're going to continue to do that, and I think it would be wild for them to try to or not sue in Indiana court or find Texas, friendly Texas district. Like it would be very dumb. And no matter what, they'll probably sue, and there'll probably be a court date set for February, and then they will be able to play. I mean, it's very much like the Lou Moore case last year, where he actually, what we were following in September was basically a restraining order against the NCAA that they couldn't enforce their eligibility rules on him, and then they set the court dates for early February, and then they threw the case out because it didn't matter. Like, Lou Moore just took back his stuff. So I think that's probably what's going to happen here. And it is the smart thing to do. But you're exactly right. We talked about when they came back, we were like, it's an embarrassment of riches. It's not necessarily a needed thing for those two in particular to come back. And now they're not there, but they were pacing. It sounded like they were pacing towards at least Stephen Daley, towards the North Texas team.
Yeah, he was playing. Close.
But it doesn't really matter because it is still, it is an easy non-conference. It's our preseason, as we know, Tim. Indiana plays 3 preseason games because we're smarter than
3. I think they play 5.
Well, I'm a Northwestern believer. You know this.
Yeah. So, like, even if those guys, I mean, Stephen Daley would, in the few sort of practice clips that get leaked of individual drills, Stephen Daley looks pretty explosive, pretty mobile. Like, he wasn't just kind of stretching and going through some motions. But yes, we got a little bit of time here to get this settled out. We thankfully brought in, I think, great guys in the transfer portal for the defensive line that can still be very, very, very good. And as long as, hell, if it doesn't even matter if it's Ohio State, if we can get 1 or 2 of those guys back for the late season and the playoff run to provide some depth, that's tremendous.
Yeah, for sure. Hey guys, quick break here to just ask, are you subscribed to us on YouTube or follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts? Because it really does help us out a lot, and it doesn't cost you a thing. So check and see if you subscribed, like the video on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, comment on Spotify, comment on YouTube, follow us, tweet about us. We love hearing from you. Let's get back to the pod. Tim, we talked about this with Coach Wilson, that I think it's really strange that rivals or really good Indiana high school matchups actually play right now. Like Lawrence North and Brownsburg playing this weekend. And then Kobe, one of our listeners, he was telling me he went to Fisher's Carmel, which I would assume is a big rivalry. And then the Bloomington South and Bloomington North also played. Like, what? Like, is the schedule makers not understanding what it's like to draw eyeballs to a specific matchups? Like, why are we kicking off the season with our biggest rivalry when it's August and it's hot and like no one wants, like, high school football should be like a fall, like the leaves should be changing and Bloomington South and Bloomington North should be playing. Like, what is the deal with this? Like, you played high school football in Northwest Indiana.
I did. Yeah. The hot belly of, I have no idea. Can you look up for a second while I opine on this? Are Bloomington South and North even in the same conference? Because they might actually not be in the same conference. That's the thing. So,
which
like,
would be crazy.
But like, this is how it happens sometimes. High school sports in Indiana is so stupid. But like, we had a non-con. That was the early part of the season. And so some of the things like Brownsburg and Lawrence North are on opposite sides of Indianapolis. Like, they are not in the same conference. So it makes sense that this is the Ohio State, Texas type of scheduling. Like, let's do this big game, whatever else. There is no college football today, as we know, this last weekend without any college football. So not that like it really draws tickets away from a Friday night. Like, it's high schoolers basically go to the games or whatever else. But like, yeah, week 1 of high school football is a way to like have the entire attention on you. So to some degree, I do understand some of the bigger time programs having like a big game and to start it off. but it's also like, yeah, let's really learn where we're at, play the rest of our non-con. Then we try to win our little, Lakes Association of the East Side type of conference, then be ready for sectionals. So like, I
So
do
you are
kind of get the
correct.
scheduling. Okay.
They are separate. And they like maybe used to be there's some probably drama that people know about, but like Bloomington North is in the Mid-State Conference, and then they both used to be in Conference Indiana, but Conference Indiana is now dissolving because there's like multiple but
it's all crazy. It's like school districts get moved. It's also like class sizes change because then like a school grows or shrinks in sort of its population size. So you go from a program that's in like 4A to suddenly 5A or 5A to 6A, or you go down from 5A to 3A. And so some of it is like trying to balance these conferences of high schools to be like, all right, we've got a mix of some 3A schools, some 4A, whatever, what is the distance traveled? And then like you just try, this is like all like weird cross politics with like school districting in weird ways. It's very, so my high school went through like changes in our conference while I was in it. And like there was one year where we were actually like a Notre Dame style independent, and we just like didn't play because our conference got absolved. But that's also because like we shut down multiple high schools in our like school district. So then, well, we had 4 teams in our little school district, which was then part of this bigger conference of like 10 teams, but now there was only 6. So then we had to break up. It's like, it's all like stupid stuff. But I would say it's probably some reason like that.
Yeah. I mean, Carmel and Fishers are not even in the same conference. No. And Fishers' rivalry is Hamilton Southeast, which I'm guessing I probably would have known if I would have lived up there. But like you're right. And I should be very nice because the Indiana State High School Athletic Association football Facebook page followed our Facebook page. So I guess I shouldn't rip them too much. But that's just like it's almost as if they need a governing body from a state level to like organize this thing a little bit. I do understand the school consolidations and those type of things, but you would think regionality, like Brownsburg is in the same conference as Fishers. And while that's not a big deal, like Brownsburg and Fishers are not super far away from each other, you would think that, you know what's closer to Fishers than Brownsburg? Carmel.
Yeah.
like it's that is weird to me that there's not a little more organization from that standpoint.
It is like a mixture of all of these things. Cause like Carmel's been a very good football program. And so some of these coaches are like, no, I want to be able to win my conference. So let Carmel be in a different conference. I don't care if that means we have to be on the bus a half hour longer to get to whatever school we're playing.
So Fishers is ducking Carmel. That's what I'm hearing you say on the podcast. Well, the center of the high school football universe on Saturday or Friday night was actually about Indiana. And because Brownsburg and Lawrence North, who highly nationally like sought after programs, like they have a lot of attention right now for Indiana high school. I think Brownsburg is actually ranked nationally. That game sold out. So like Tim was going to go to it, and the game was sold out. You couldn't even get a ticket if you wanted to. There was a lot of attention, and I think it actually ended up the most Curt Cignetti storyline ever. I know Curt Cignetti has nothing to do with this game, but basically Indiana has the highest ranked recruit it ever has, the national, one of the best receivers in the country committed to come play for Indiana. And at the time of his commitment, a little 3-star from Brownsburg named Branden Sharpe comes into play. And this is what Branden Sharpe, the moves that he had and the speed. And he had a huge game. As those listen on audio, that's a 48-yard touchdown, his second of the game for Branden Sharpe. Branden Sharpe outduels Monshun Sales by, at least from stats and records. I think from Steve Wiltfong's reporting, there seems to be a little bit of a if the quarterback could throw the ball, Monshun Sales would have more stats type.
There's a screen grab where Monshun has blown past the guy by a couple yards and should just cakewalk into a touchdown, but the ball is 7 yards underthrown, and you can see Monshun trying to dive back to go get it, and it's a little rough. And the Brownsburg kid is going to Illinois State, the quarterback. So listen, it's Illinois State, but that's from a high school level, that means he's pretty solid. Brownsburg hasn't lost in 2 years. They're a very, very good team. Lawrence North, while very talented in different ways, I think from a state level is a little bit in the next tier. So it was maybe not the best game, but like, I think Monshun is still the reason Monshun Sales is the number 1 wide receiver in the country is not because he has stats, as Alabama fans have learned. It's because he's an elite athlete and has traits that you can't coach, and is still a great player. Like was playing safety in that game, making hits. Like Monshun is still extremely, extremely talented.
Tim mentioned this play, Monshun Sales playing safety.
Tight end, Curt Brown is the H-back. They go left side.
Just sticking a player.
Yeah.
Something Dylan Thieneman only wishes that he was able to do.
Man.
But Monshun Sales doing a great job on defense. And Coach Wilson talked about this, Tim, when we talked to him, is like football's a gladiator sport. Like he likes guys that will do the little things. Yeah, it's the defensive side of the ball. We're not showing him blocking there or playing special teams, but at least tackling and being aggressive is something Monshun Sales was able to do. And that kid, I think the guy that he tackled, and those watching a video would know a number, and so correct me in the comments, but I'm pretty sure that's the kid for Brownsburg that had 225 yards rushing in that game. Like he's a good running back.
Brownsburg is very, very good. Like they have a number of D1 prospects. Like, and that game, Lawrence North was up at halftime, but then Brownsburg came out in the third quarter and put it on them. It was pretty tough. So it was a good game, but it was nice to see. I mean, Branden Sharpe too. Like that poor Lawrence North safety was like,
so
I got him. Nope, I don't got him. I don't got him at all. He just,
the angle that he took, and just like completely, it was bad. But Branden Sharpe, we know he's twitchy. Like he has a lot of things that they like about him. I think he's going to be a type of receiver that Mike Shanahan maybe take a little bit longer to develop, just because of the athleticism and the size that Tim's talking about. Like he needs to get a little bit bigger. But yeah, I just it was cool to see that much attention and me to learn about all these football conferences, and that what should be logical rivals against each other aren't in the same conference.
Not at all.
Then Bloomington North, Bloomington South, what is real bad. Like Bloomington, what are we doing? Why are you not forcing those schools to be in the same conference? Like that's so weird. Yeah. Like someone please explain that to me. Like in Kansas, we didn't have like mega high schools like they did in Indiana. We would have like 4 high schools that were a little bit smaller, all in the same district. And all those schools were forced to be in the same conference. There wouldn't have been one team that was like playing something else. So
no, this is all politics. Indiana is a crazy state. It's not like that at all.
All right, Tim, we started off this podcast talking a little bit about Nick Saban in a very friendly and respectful manner. So now let's talk about some positive things that came out this week, since I have been traveling, all that stuff, trying to catch up. I've caught some clips. And John Fanta, are you a John Fanta fan?
I am a fan of John Fanta, the personality. And I'd say I like him more than a number of broadcasters, but it might be hard for him to crack the top 5 or so. Like I think you and I are both on it. It is kind of crazy actually, but like both Iron Eagle, and his son No Eagle is really good. Like really, really good as a play-by-play guy. So I think from John Fanta does other things, but like I think of him as a basketball play-by-play guy. But it's probably hard for him to crack that top grade. But I like John Fanta a lot.
He's non-traditional. He's kind of like, his voice is not iconic. Oh, well, it might be iconic because it's just not like the traditional announcer voice. Which
it's not as deep. It's not as
John Fanta went on Ari and Andy and Ari, their show, and had this to say.
So I'm curious to hear that, John.
I think they might run the table. I mean, I really do. I know their schedule's harder, but like, I am not going to doubt this guy. To me, he is the best coach in the sport. And anybody disputing that right now, what are you talking about? There's no question that he knows what to find in the transfer portal. You know, Todd Blackledge brought this up, and I want to give Todd all the credit. He brought this up to me at Big Ten Media Day. And it blew my mind. So that's why I'm sharing it with you. But this is courtesy of Todd. He said that every national champion okay, as long as this has been recorded, has had at least 50% of their roster as 4 or 5-star players. At least 50%. You want to know the percentage of Indiana's players on that undefeated?
Can I guess?
Yeah.
I would say 25%, 23%-ish would be my guess.
Andy?
30%?
This is something that we would have known, by the way, just institutionally 5 years ago. The fact that we just don't know it. But what's the answer, John?
8%.
8.
Like, so for me, like Josh Hoover, he doesn't have to be Fernando Mendoza because they've got more weapons. I think the kid, Nick Marsh, is going to be a stud, in this system, in this setup. And they're going to be able to run the football. And there's no question they're going to be able to play defense. So, like, where's their holes?
You said you had a
Tim, John Fanta basically is saying what obviously Indiana fans, us as an Indiana podcast, have been saying is like, this is the most talent they've had. So why, if we think Curt Cignetti could do it with that other level of talent, why would he not be able to do it with perceived better football players?
Yeah, I mean, sneak preview, I think he will. That's just going to be where I go. But it's just sort of like Andy and Ari there. You see them aghast. Oh my God, 8%. And it should be the most light bulb moment when they're like, yeah, I think I've got Indiana at 6 or 7 this year. I mean, listen, they're really good, but like, who knows? Could it happen again? It's like, could it happen again? The chef only has better ingredients to work with, and all he's done is proven what he can do. Yeah, it could happen again. Like, maybe it won't, but you got to be really bold to be making this claim now that it won't happen. I'm glad that John Fanta was like the one bringing it to it. Finally, like everybody else has been like, oh man, it's hard to replace a Heisman quarterback. Like, because the Heisman is just a popular vote, but to replace a really elite college football quarterback, oh yeah, that's actually all Curt Cignetti has done every year.
Yeah, and we'll have our predictions later, and so we'll talk about where we think it is. And I think Indiana could be better than last season and still not have as successful as a win-loss and potentially ultimate prize season, because we know even last year's team, which I think is a historically great team in terms of what they did, especially in the playoffs, put themselves in a position to lose 2 games, really? Like the Iowa game, like the last second field goal, and the Penn State one, obviously the sack. And I'm not even putting Ohio State in there because Ohio State hits that field goal by fielding. That ties the game and gives the ball back to Fernando Mendoza. Like, I'm not even saying like that was like a guaranteed loss, or at least they took loss from or a win from the jaws of losing, or whatever the term is. But like that whole thing is, you can be a really, really good team and still lose in college football because it is sometimes a matter of inches and margins and stuff like that, and the ball doesn't bounce your way. So I think it's still impressive, though, when a guy says it's not crazy for them to go 16-0, because it's not. It really isn't. For if you believe in what they did last year and look at the talent on their roster. A guy that I know you like, and this is a little bit longer clip, so we can stop it if you have a reaction to what he's saying here. Stanford Steve, one of the ESPN guys that has been pretty cool around Bloomington. He every so often pops up at Upstairs or Buffalo Louie's or stuff like that. He went on a show to talk a little bit about Indiana.
I look at what they lost and what they replaced it with. I think Nick Marsh is an absolute stud. I think Charlie Becker is an absolute stud. The offensive line, what you brought in, you already have really good pieces that have really good experience on top of already playing very good football. You know how they want to do things. Hoover is set up for a monster season because the approach, and both staff took shots at each other. But Indiana's going to have a run game. That's the quarterback's best friend. Pons is probably the guy I worry about missing the most because of what a game changer he was and how he had, that little man attitude that just, you weren't going to beat me and I was going to be the best dude on the field. But you still have experience on the back end there.
I feel like Stanford Steve listened to the Kirkwood and Dunn podcast, because we've said almost this verbatim, that the one area that we're a little bit concerned about is that cornerback outside back position.
I think Haynes is if not the best, right up there as far as defense coordinator because of the approach they take. It just really makes sense every time I see them, and his ability to adapt and change because he wants to attack, he wants to be on the other side of the line of scrimmage. And I look at that depth on the defensive. Every single coach them in the sport, if you ask them what they would want more of, it's depth on the defensive line. They want to be able to roll 8 guys in. Indiana's as deep as anything, and I think their special teams are going to be awesome. So I don't see them losing much. Like if things go accordingly, Cooper and Surratt. I mean, Cooper went in the first round. Nick Marsh is a better talent. He's a better talent than he is. So,
fact. And we didn't have it in this, but in the Fanta clip, they were doing some B-roll of the Indiana practices. Nick Marsh had a fade route catch there that was downright sexy. Like that is the football term for sexy. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's right. He can do those things. He's all right on here with the talent that Indiana has.
You saw the deal with the gold shoes. I think Hoover is set up like big time. And I'm not going to fuss about, I love their running backs. I'm not going to, that's another reason why I don't have Notre Dame dropping off. Like, I'm not going to worry about who's playing running back at Notre Dame. Like, it's going to be fine. Like, they're going to be all right. So I look at what Indiana lost, and there's a lot there. I mean, you can look at the NFL draft. There's a lot. But they replaced them with guys you want in those spots, and combined with the experience and talent level, and not losing coordinators, man. Like, him going in the bag and paying his coordinators, I think says a lot. And they have a way of doing things. Like, both guys, I know Brian talking, it's over 10 years. And then like watching the Big Ten show the other night, go there and like seeing their eyeballs, like watch them practice. They're getting it. And the schedule sets up perfectly.
So Tim, Stanford Steve obviously pretty high on them. Kind of like the Fanta take as well. It's like they return a lot of talent. There's a lot of belief. There's a lot of the system. And I know people in the comments a bit like that listen to Kirkwood and Dunn, YouTube, Spotify. They are clamoring for the same thing that you all who are listening have said the same thing all offseason. And it's the guys that we show, the clips that we show that are doubting Indiana. While I understand there are levels of doubt that I do understand, that there's just people that are asking questions and then going, it's really hard to go 16-0. I think it might be hard for them to do this again. I think that's still a fair, rational take. But these two guys are making the case of like, dude, why? Why would you think that way? Like they have so much talent.
And it's ultimately like, yeah, of course, we're going to agree with John Fanta and Stanford Steve here. And Stanford Steve played tight end at Stanford, hence the name Stanford Steve. He's on College Game Day on the side doing sort of gambling picks a little bit, whatever else. I think he's a ball knower in my book. But it comes down to like, could Indiana not win the national title? Sure. Yeah, like other teams can win. This team can still be very, very good. But like when we're hearing on national media and they're doing like their playoff brackets and whatever else, where some of them don't even have Indiana making the playoffs, or they're like, yeah, that's maybe 9-3, and they're trying to be edgy, or they have them in the playoffs, but like, yeah, I think, they might host a game, but I've got LSU coming to town. I think LSU wins in Bloomington over it. And it's like, the real answer here, if you're really trying to think about it, is they're probably in the Final Four, and then it's just a matter of matchup and health a little bit. There's only really one team that I would believe from a preseason roster talent, coaching situation, everything else that I would totally be comfortable projecting as a better team right now than Indiana, and it's Ohio State. That's the only team that I would. Oregon, plenty of returning talent that is coming back. Great. That talent got their ass kicked last year. Sorry. They lost both their coordinators. The number of people that have Oregon at number one just blows my fucking mind all the time. So Ohio State, I got it. Oregon, no. Miami, no. Some good talent, but not enough in my mind. Notre Dame, a little bit. But again, you're really projecting CJ Carr to make a true leap, which he has all the talent in the world that can do. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. But again, where are you projecting there? Has it really proven for Marcus Freeman to take a quarterback and make him into something more than what he was? I don't know about that. Texas has all the talent in the world, but again, LOL. Like that, there's some problems there. So like, it's just blowing my mind how many people are willing to put 5 or 6 teams above Indiana this year at this preseason point. It's wild.
All right, Tim, let's look at the Big Ten this season, do a little bit of a preview, ask some questions here, our big questions going into the season. And I will ask you, and then you can go, and then I'll go first, and then you can react to it. Okay, Tim, sleeper team. Who is the biggest sleeper team for you in the Big Ten this season?
Well, I'm gonna, man, I'm not gonna pick the team that's part of our second question, which is the biggest upset of the year, because that inherently would be, it's kind of the same thing here. I think a team that is going to be pretty solid, and likely is going to win a bunch of games. I guess I'm going to call them a sleeper. I don't. To me, they're just probably not. There's tiers that are problems, but I'm going to pick Minnesota.
Okay.
They're not going to be bad. They've got some talent. I don't think they're cracking the playoffs, but I think they'll be a little bit more like, oh, look at this. Michigan in a tight one against Minnesota here. That's wild. There's just going to be a lot of that. And there'll be, we might be saying, oh man, we just finished this tough run. We just played Ohio State, Michigan. Now we got to play Minnesota. This isn't going to be a fun game. We'll expect to win, whatever else. But I would pick Minnesota as my sleeper team. I don't think they end up, making the playoffs or anything, but I think they end up being very frisky and tough for a lot of teams to beat.
Yeah, I'm going to actually stay in that part of the country, and I'm going to put Wisconsin as my sleeper team, because while you are pointing out that the one thing about Minnesota is they're just always consistently there.
Solid
and this stuff. And there's no doubt that Fickle has not proven that at Wisconsin. But what we've seen with Wisconsin in this offseason is I think they finally got a quarterback that matches what they want to do. And I think that they can surprise a lot of teams. When you and I did our coach firing predictions in order, you and I didn't take Luke Fickle. And people are like, why? And I think it's because we know kind of deep down the schedule is a lot easier, and they're going to be put in a position to have the home games to surprise some people, and as well as just be really, really solid. So the fact that the Minnesota-Wisconsin rivalries are two sleeper teams that, the upper Midwest is going to have a good season here. And sleeper, I just think it's more you can snipe someone at the top maybe, and then also put yourself in a position to be an 8 or 9 win team, which still should matter in college football. So that's where I'm at. All right, I'm going to pick the upset. I'm going to stick with my sleeper team because you pointed out, like, if you're just sleeper, you're probably predicting an upset. I'm going to put Wisconsin USC in October. So a couple years ago, Wisconsin almost beat Oregon at the year that they won the Big Ten championship. That could be a tough place to play. And if I think they're going to be really, really solid, then I think they're going to be in like a good opportunity to play an Eastern time zone or Central time zone Lincoln Riley team who will not be at its best and beat them. So hopefully it's snowing for the people in Wisconsin October 24th, because I can guarantee a win if it's going to be a cold day. But even if it's not, I think Wisconsin is going to be in a position to upset USC and Lincoln Riley, which will be the one game all year that we're all like, oh, wow, of course that happened. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be very down on USC, so I love that take. That Wisconsin can pull out the upset here. My upset of the year, and I really wanted to pick a different version of this, but it's obviously a team that I'm going to be very high on. It is Week 6. Iowa goes to Washington. Washington will be highly favored. They'll be at home, whatever else. I think Iowa is damn good. They are a very, very hard team to beat. You have to be extremely sort of disciplined, on top of your stuff. Washington will be playing at home after what will be a huge game and a huge win for them when they go to USC. And I think Washington wins at USC. That's not my big upset pick, because I think Washington is very good. But this is the classic college football letdown spot. Washington wins on the road at USC, comes home in Week 6, and fucking Iowa comes into town and shoves it down their throat. Iowa will be coming off probably a loss to Ohio State at home, although I really wanted to pick Iowa to beat Ohio State at home. Probably not going to have enough firepower ultimately to do that. But Iowa, I think from that point on, is going to be able to pretty closely sort of run the table, and we're talking about the Hawkeyes being a big-time playoff team.
I like it. I think that's it's one of those. Is Iowa beating Washington considered that big of an upset, especially since I'm pretty sure Iowa's only 4 or 5 spots behind them in the rankings. But to your point, if Washington is that high after beating USC,
Yeah.
that would be an upset.
That's where I think it becomes that, like, I bet when we get to week 6, Washington will be favored in that game by like 7.5, 8 points. And then Iowa's going to win it by a touchdown. Like, that's going to be the way that I see it go. Because Washington doesn't have a ton before that. They played the Apple Cup to start the year. They'll have a tough Minnesota team, I think, but I think they could win that. But everything will be about, like, we're going down to Southern California. We're beating USC. They will be riding a high. And at that point, they'll be undefeated in my projections. And then Iowa comes into town and just mollywops them with some good old-fashioned Big Ten West football.
All right. Who's the first coach fired from the Big Ten this season?
I think it's got to be Mike Locksley. What are we doing? It's got to be Mike Locksley. I think there's a good chance they lose against Virginia Tech in a quasi sort of regional rivalry of sorts, although I wouldn't call that a rivalry by any means. UCLA, Nebraska are like solid-ish teams that, like, man, you're supposed to get off to a hot start. And if they just go loser with Ohio State, and then we're playing Rutgers, and that could be it, like, right there. So Mike Locksley is my pick, because you and I think, were both surprised in the offseason that Malik Washington, the quarterback, did not transfer. Very, very talented kid, and plays pretty well with limited resources and limited talent around him. And I think it's going to be the strategic choice by the school to say, we would love to keep you, Malik, so we're going to get rid of the coach, and we promise we're going to invest in you. And that's the move.
Yeah, when Tim says limited talent around him, he's meaning the coaching staff. Because I hate to say it, I agree. I love the Turtles, and I will be high on them as soon as they win, like Nebraska or whatever. And I wanted to say, because there's not a lot of coaches that should or would be on the hot seat this year. Like, you could see Kirk Ferentz retiring this season, but he won't be fired. And even what programs,
there's only like 2 or 3 logical choices that we could be talking about this with.
And we wouldn't have said Penn State last year, but like, there are programs that the bottom completely falls out on them, then there's a chance. Like, it's why, I'm saying Steve Sarkisian is going to get fired this year from Texas. And we'll talk about that more in a second. But what programs are there? Bottom falls out of Indiana. Curt Cignetti's not going anywhere. Ryan Day's not going anywhere. Kyle Whittingham will get grace. So those are Dan Lanning. Maybe the bottom fell out on Dan Lanning, but I don't think it's going to. So, like, yeah, Lincoln Riley, Matt Rule, and is the only other 2 alternatives I would put. And so with that, I'll take Mike Locksley for that very reason. So I agree with you on that. All right, who makes the playoffs from the Big Ten? So I think the locks to make the playoffs in the Big Ten are Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State. Yeah. And so it's a matter of, do we get 2 more teams? I am not high on USC, like you have alluded to here. I don't think that they have a shot to make it. And so then it's like, all right, who are the other teams that I would consider for that 4th and potentially 5th spot? I think I'm actually going to I'm going to put Iowa in there, because if I don't believe in another team that you might select, then I would say Iowa's going to be there. And I think Iowa will get the benefit of the doubt, unlike last year, which Iowa was a very good team that didn't get the benefit of the doubt, and then they go and beat Vanderbilt the way that they did. If they're 10-2, 11-1, people will be like, okay, Iowa should be in. And then the other one is going to be, if this happens, it's because they are schedule merchants. Penn State. Penn State be in that position as the 5th team in my list. So that would leave out USC and Michigan, which I think, and Washington. But those 2 teams are the ones that have to go down for those 2 to rise up, and they both have them on the schedule. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a mixture of teams there. Penn State, USC, Washington, where they all play each other. I don't expect any one of those 3 to really rise above the others. And we'll be talking about strength of schedule, a little bit of transitive properties of Team A, Team B, Team C. We'll be comparing them to the SEC. So, yeah, I've got 4 teams in from the Big Ten. Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana, of course, I have Iowa making it in, and as I talked about, because Iowa beats Washington in my projection here. I think Iowa can beat Michigan. I think they might lose to Ohio State. I'm not a believer in Michigan ultimately. So I think Iowa can get in. They'll only have the one loss against Ohio State. That'll be pretty clear then that they're in. But then we're talking a lot about schedules, and this Washington, Penn State, USC sort of circle matchup is a lot of just bad sort of vibes. And when we ultimately get to a point where the playoff committee looks at win-loss, and then they look at what they think is sort of strength of record or strength of schedule, their SEC bias. And I bet we'll be hearing about some 10-2 Ole Miss gets in over 10-2 Washington because of whatever reason. So I would lean at 4. I like Iowa the most.
All right. Who wins the Big Ten this year?
I've got the Indiana Hoosiers winning the Big Ten. Maybe that's too biased or whatever. I could see them perhaps losing at home against Ohio State, right? But I do think they win every other game. I think Ohio State could lose a number of games. Their schedule is very tough, including at Indiana. I think this is an Oregon-Indiana matchup for the Big Ten title game. It's in Indianapolis. I think it'll look a lot like the damn Peach Bowl. And we're going to be talking about a real problem that Dan Lanning has. And it's not just a big game. It might be Curt Cignetti. And it might be that Curt Cignetti is his demon. And we're 3-0 against the Ducks, winning the Big Ten title. This Indiana team is just too good. This defense is going to be, in my mind, the best in the country, bar none. I think the offense will be growing into its sort of form here, but I think it's going to be very, very explosive. We are going to be too much for every team on our schedule to handle. I've got the Indiana Hoosiers winning the Big Ten title again.
I am not sold that last year's schedule is easier than this year's schedule. Because that's what a lot of people will say is like, oh, Indiana, this schedule this year is real tough. I'm not convinced. And my doubts are, I don't believe USC coming to the Eastern time zone is any good. And I'm not a believer in Washington. Never really happened. I know it's supposedly a tough place to play, but so was Autzen until Curt Cignetti went out there. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not looking forward to that Washington game, but I think it's a win for sure.
I think Iowa at Kinnick last year was a harder game than Michigan at the Big House this year.
Certainly also for where our players in development are at, both in season and over the course of their careers. That Iowa game was the first for a lot of those guys, a real big, I mean, some of them played at Ohio State last year and lost, right? But that was probably always going to be a talent disadvantage and a tough draw for the 24 team. 25 team was a favorite on the road, to be able to do that. And it was a real challenge for them. I think we're so much more experienced, so much more veteran that when we go to Washington, this is a cakewalk compared to what it was for us to go to Iowa last year.
So Indiana then either plays a rematch against Ohio State, which I would not like,
No.
or they play an Oregon team in Indianapolis or a Penn State team in Indianapolis. It's a home game. Yep. So that's why I think the odds of Indiana winning are pretty high. So I agree with you there. Okay, let's wrap up the show. What's going on at Texas? We have a situation here. They've used Serge Sarkisian. Arch Manning's having 4 turnovers in a scrimmage leading into this, and then a linebacker is dismissed from a team. And I didn't get this one pulled up, but a freshman parent is going online saying that he has receipts and he's going to expose the Texas coaching staff for their lies. Tim, Steve Sarkisian is James Franklin this year, and he will be fired by the end of October. I've said it on a few podcasts, and it's just more and more looking like that is what things are trending towards. And it's going to be hilarious. I am so excited for it.
I really cannot wait for whatever this freshman parent has, because you could tell me it was the craziest drama and Texas is actually not paying kids what they've been promised. And every kid is at a 50% of their expected earnings or something like that. You could also tell me it was the lies were the wide receiver coach telling that kid that he would play in week 1 and now he's inactive. And then like, am I exposing them for their lies? Because it's just a crazy parent, right? Like you can tell me any of those things, but you are right that like the message boards this week have been aflame about the problems at Texas. And really in particular, and I think it's fair to call it out because like the offense has been bad or really struggled. And Steve Sarkisian is supposedly the best offensive coach in football. And it's not really working out like that. Tough times down in Austin.
Yeah, he kept play calling duties. I mean, he's going down as captain of the ship, I guess, because it's we know it's hard for Cignetti and the Reese Davis things. Like, I'm a CEO head coach. That's what he means by that. Like, I am not a guy that's in the day to day, so I can see the bigger picture. And I think that has paid off for Cignetti.
Well, maybe Steve Sarkisian knows that the actual best job in the entire United States is being a fired football coach. Because you are getting every dime of that money on your contract, and you don't have to work a day in your life. So
yeah, and you know that Nick Saban's going to go on ESPN to say, "Look, you should hire this guy because he loves talking about his former assistants."
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Tim,
hope Steve Sarkisian gets a Kent State job.
Last thing, the debate that has been raging is the fall weddings. Tim, like, where do you fall on? Should people have fall weddings if they're college football fans? Should you go to fall weddings if you're a college football fan? Where do you fall on this national debate that takes us every offseason? But it seems like people are actually being more like, this is overblown. Where do you fall on this?
I think in real life and not sports universe, I think it's overblown. I think if you're smart, if you want to do a fall wedding, like, cool, knock your socks off. Just don't do it on a Saturday. Like, I don't know why. And maybe it's because I've never been married, never planned a wedding that I'm about to make this dumb comment. But like, book the wedding for a Thursday. People take off of work for the wedding anyway. Like, who cares? Like, get the cheaper date and venue, and then like have it like during like. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I kind of understand the appeal of like, well, if you can have beautiful foliage, like, cool. But also, you can't control the weather. I think, as we've learned in Indiana this summer, that like there could be storms, it could be super hot, it could be super cold, it could be gray, it could be rainy. Like, so why are you trying to bother? To me, it doesn't make any sense. I would pick just more of a universally easy day or whatever was a cheaper date to have available. But then again, this might be LOL. Look at the guy who's never planned a wedding making these comments, because that's where these are coming from.
One of the things I love about my wife, and people ask me about this because people know I'm a huge college football fan and football fan in general, and they will be like, "How does your wife Marissa handle your football fandom?" I'm like, my wife, when people ask us to do stuff socially, they'll be like, she will say we can't do anything on Saturdays in the fall. Because like, she knows like this is something that drives our stuff. So I am very much in the don't have fall weddings. I won't come to your fall wedding unless I'm forced to because it's a family member. But other than that, don't have fall weddings. I will send a really nice gift, and it'll probably be football themed to try to make you a better football fan.
Just
so you're
remember,
not planning fall
never
weddings.
Forget.
This is out of the Southeastern Conference. Tired, no fall weddings. Wired, no fall funerals. As this is a funeral home in Alabama that put the Alabama-Auburn schedule as like a magnet on the wall. So don't die in the fall. Down in
hold that
Alabama.
off.
Yeah. In a much more serious note, Tim, the flooding stuff, I know we have listeners all over the state of Indiana. The power being out still in Gary, Indiana, and Northwest Indiana is just absolutely wild. So there's some probably listeners that are going through some tough times. Our thoughts are with you. And hopefully you're getting connected to the right resources and stuff like that. As you know, it's been really, really bad, and that really, really sucks. And we just want to give you a shout out if you're going through that. And hopefully these episodes that we do on Kirkwood and Dunn, which are supposed to be fun and dumb, are a good distraction for you. And that's the things that Tim and I can provide for you with it. Tim, I know you live in Indianapolis. I know White River. It's not kind of near where you are, but it's been pretty crazy.
It's been really tough. Real challenge. A lot of folks are not doing great. So, I hope folks are able to be safe and get through it a little bit. I've heard better news. My folks are up in the region. in Valpo, they got power back on Wednesday. My sister in Hobart got power, I think, just yesterday. So, like, I think they're finally making some progress, but just keep holding on. I think it'll be over with pretty soon. So, wishing everybody the best.
Yeah. Well, we will be back on Wednesday as we continue to march towards the season. You can follow Tim at TB Hoosiers. You can follow me at ST McGee. You can follow us on all platforms at Kirkwood and Dunn. Let us know down in the comments about your reaction to our argument at the beginning of the podcast, thoughts throughout the podcast. As Tuesday, I will be back on Bookstore Brew to react to all of your reactions. Stay safe, everybody. Go Hoosiers.